This is episode 329, and we're talking about how to build authentically great convos through our DMs on social media. And we have Lauren Najar joining us today. Welcome to the Content Queen podcast. I'm your host, Mariah, entrepreneur, storyteller, digital nomad, creative content bootcamp, and founder of Content Queen with over 10 years experience in marketing. This podcast is here to help you create your ideal content marketing strategy by blending storytelling and strategy. So let's get into it. Hello, gang. Okay. Using our DMs. Hands up if you are actively in your social media DMs. I'm not putting my hand up because I actually feel I should be doing a better job at being in my DMs. So I have the absolute expert to come in and talk to us all about how to start using our DMs, how to feel authentic when we are in the DMs, how to start conversations, because sometimes it could be like, hey, how are you? And everyone's like, we don't want what you're selling. So how can we use this as a platform? Yes, for sales, but for authentic connection, for building relationships, because we just never know where those DMs could lead to us. Spoiler alert, one of the DMs that I had on social media led into me having a housemate and living in Sydney with my gorgeous friend Leanne, who's been on the podcast many a times. So yeah, how can we start utilizing our DMs better? Let's hear from Lauren, who is a marketing and business strategist who has helped service-based business entrepreneurs stand out online, generate consistent leads, and convert through relationship-driven strategy and simple systems. She's known for her direct, non-fluff approach and for creating elevated spaces through coaching, consulting, and curated events where women build real momentum through connection and collaboration. So let's hear from Lauren.
Amazing. Lauren, welcome to the Content Queen podcast. Thank you so much for having us. Before we get into all the questions I have for you, because there are a lot, please tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
I'm Lauren, and thank you for having me on. I'm excited to chat about this topic, truly. I am a business coach first and foremost, and I started a marketing agency a couple of years into my business coaching journey. And as of this past year, I started hosting intimate dinners and retreats for women founders across the US. And then I also launched my own podcast called Business Over Cocktails back in August of last year. So I am doing all the things apparently. But I think my most, I guess the best thing I can always talk about is building relationships, and specifically when it comes to sales. And so that's really what I've built my business around. And so each of those things touches that topic for sure.
Yeah, amazing. Wow, you are a busy woman. And yeah, the idea of connection and bringing people together. I think it's a lot of work. But I'm
Mhm.
glad there's people in the world that does that sort of stuff so that we can all come together and connect, because I know obviously entrepreneurship can be lonely at times, especially when you're just working all day from home. During COVID, we just got into this habit of just not seeing anyone. So it's always nice to have these connector places. But I'd love to know your
Mhm.
origin story. Like, how did you get into business coaching? How did it then turn into a marketing agency? How did it then turn into doing dinners and retreats? Like, how did this all happen?
Yeah, I have a background in banking. So I was in banking for 10 years, just about. That's what I went to school for. I went to school for finance. So I have a finance degree. I actually have, not to make this like a 2-hour podcast, but I'm a two-time cancer survivor. And my parents actually passed away in my early 20s as well. So I went from going into college, wanting a very high stress, high pressure finance job to then going through all of that and then coming out the other side of I really want to find something that I'm actually fulfilled with. And so I was in my mid 20s at the time, and I, was with my now husband who loved what he did, and I had some friends who loved what they did. So I knew it was possible to find something that you could be passionate about. And so I went on this journey of just doing all of these multi-level marketing companies and side hustles while I was working my corporate job, and nothing really seemed to fit. But I think each of those things led me on a path to where I am now. I decided to start a blog sharing stories of people who went through some tough stuff in their life, just like I did. So it was an avenue for me to share my stories, and then I shared and highlighted other cancer survivors, things like that. But I kind of, when I joined like the blogging community, I stumbled upon the coaching community. Did not know business coaching was a thing. Didn't know, like, I'm sure I've heard of like life coach before, but at that point, there was so many coaches, right? Like manifestation coaches. There's so many coaches out there. So I definitely really stumbled upon that world on Facebook one day, and I'll never forget, I saw someone post that they were taking on one-on-one coaching clients for $30,000 a year. And at that moment, I was like, what is this? Like, whoa. And so I definitely was like seeing dollar signs, and I'm like, whoa, like what is this business coaching? And so I hired my first business coach because I then kind of pivoted to, you know what, I need to make money in this online space if I'm ever going to make money from blogging. I decided that I was going to be a social media manager, and that lasted for about 3 months. And then by the time I was done with that business coach, I transitioned to business coaching because I've been doing sales for 10 to 15 years at that point. I was training salespeople at my corporate job. I really liked finance. I really did enjoy sales, and I enjoyed coaching people at my job. So it seemed to fit. And I think with all of the other multi-level marketing companies, that also helped me understand how to use social media for business purposes. And just like, I definitely took marketing classes in college, but I didn't have a marketing degree. So I think that I learned on the fly a lot. And so I was able to catch on to the marketing of social media pretty quickly. But I really, really had a huge background in sales and business. And so those things like kind of came together, and here we are. And I think, the business coaching aspect of it was, I liked it, but I was missing the done for you side of things and really the strategy. And so that's why I decided to start with the agency. So I've been running both side by side for a little over 5 years now.
Yeah, wow, amazing. And I love one of the things I highlight like is the storytelling aspect of your journey. So obviously going through a really tough time in your life, but then turning it into something where you could share stories. That's something that I can totally resonate with. And then it's actually pretty wild to reflect back on how all those things lead to where you're at.
Mhm.
Like, obviously going through grief, going through your own health journey and then telling that story and that story led into you hiring a business. Like it's actually pretty amazing to reflect on how all those things come to where you are. And it's
Mhm.
nice to reflect on that, I think, and
Mhm.
and use all those parts of what you've done in your business as well, because I think it's not like, oh, that was a random job that I had 15 years ago. And it's like, oh no, that taught me this. And it actually is interesting
Yeah.
when you start pulling out those things as you sort of evolve in business. I feel like you start to, I was reflecting, I was a bookkeeper at one stage and I was like doing it for cash while I was at university. And I was like, that was such a random time, but it exposed me to like business before I even knew. And I
Mhm.
was doing it for like a local electrician. So it's like, always these random things that we pull out of our sleeve as we're evolving business. So we want to
Mhm.
talk about you mentioned having like a really big background in relationship building, sales. We need you,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
we're all struggling to build. I think building relationships does become natural. I think it's just more like in this online space, it can be really overwhelming because you're like, okay, these people don't know me from just like a reel or a video or a story, something
Mhm.
random, a comment. So, translating that into a relationship and a DM even on, say, social media is can be quite challenging for us, I feel. So,
Mhm.
but let's just step back, like one step back. Obviously, there's lots of us on social media. We're using it to
Mhm.
create content. Can you just give us a little rundown on like from a social media lens, we've got our marketing, which is our posting of our content and our bits and bobs. How does like the DMs work on social media from like a sales perspective? And like yes, give us a bit of a rundown on like how this works in the ecosystem of like our marketing and then translating that into conversations in the DMs.
Yeah, I think I love how what you said about how it can be a little awkward in the online space. And I think the first thing that I would say is the biggest thing is that we all build relationships, right? Every single day. We talk to people every single day, regardless if it's the person at the coffee shop where you're saying, "Hi, how are you?" Or, your partner, your brother, your sister, your parents. You speak to them and you have built relationships with people your entire life. So building relationships is a natural thing that we all do. And I think for whatever reason, when we are online, we immediately get this like filter, or maybe this barrier, I should say, this barrier. We put this barrier up of like, I can't be vulnerable anymore. And I am only here to make sales, and I'm only here to close everyone that I speak to. And that could be at different levels. That could be subconsciously, that could just be like we immediately think that's our job, that's what social media's job is. And I think we forget really just to truly like release the outcome of everyone that you connect with. And that's really where you begin how to like message people when it comes to then the DMs and building connection and conversation within the DMs themselves. Because I then kind of like have this visualization example for people where, imagine that you are going to an in-person networking event. And the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to go up to someone, hopefully. You're not going to sit in the corner. You go up to someone, you shake their hand, and you're going to say, "Hi, I'm Lauren. What's your name?" You're not going to say, "Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm a business coach. I work with women founders who are scaling their business. I have events. I have this email list. Here's my QR code. Do you want to sign up for it? I also have a webinar. I'm doing it next week. Like, would you find that to be interesting?" And you just keep talking, right? That person is going to think that you're absolutely crazy and gonna like just walk away from you and like not talk to you. That is kind of like what I equate to of like what not to do in the DMs, right?
Mm,
Because if we were to do that in person, why would we? No one's going to talk to us that way, right? Why can't we then visualize what we would do in person as a natural human
mm,
connection, begin that in the DMs, right? I can go, "Hi, Lauren. It's great to meet you. Thank you for connecting with me. Thank you for messaging me." Or, you know what I mean? Like, it could be anything around those lines. The other thing, too, it could just start with, like, if you're viewing someone's story and, they have a picture of their coffee or they have a picture of their day. And, like, today I posted a story that I had 7 calls today. And this is a very busy day for me today. But I would then message that person like, "Oh, you got this." Like, and that could be
mm,
my first message to them, right? And so I think laying all of that like kind of like groundwork and thinking of that from a mindset shift standpoint of like we can't go into every conversation thinking it's going to be a sale.
mm,
And I think that's where the awkwardness can then just kind of drift away because yes, that might be a sale and that's wonderful, but it also might be a collaboration opportunity. It might also be a referral. It might also be a new biz bestie that you're building a relationship with. It might also be someone you want to hire. And so when you actually release the outcome, you have less of like tunnel vision of like, what do I say? What do I do? How do I get this person to close? And you are just letting things organically happen. And I would just invite you to, for anyone who's listening, to remind yourself of that's how every relationship in your life has happened. It's happened organically. From the time you were on the playground to the time, like if you're dating someone or you're married to someone or you have friends now, it all has happened organically. You've never shoved, you never shoved, your phone in people's faces like, "Give me your number and
mm.
let's hang out," and that kind of thing. So that's really where it begins. Like if you can really like visualize how you do that every single day, then you kind of release the outcome and then And then it's freeing. You can just talk to anybody. You can message everybody, anybody, and then that's truly where the conversations begin.
Yeah, I really love that. So interesting because it's true, right? Like, I mean, how many times do you get like a message and it's like overwhelming, like four links in that one message, and I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
just said hello, like, or thanks for
Mhm.
connecting. And I think one of the things I know potentially a lot of business owners struggle with because I've seen it before and I've heard of it. It's like, yeah, like what do I say, when I first connect with someone? And I love that approach of like, okay, what would you say to someone when you first, and maybe some people aren't going to reply if you just say, hi, how are you? Like sometimes it can be a little generic. Do you find like, hi, how are you? Or something like that is a little too generic because people like don't reply? Or is it just like, well, those people weren't going to reply no matter what I said? I might as well just be natural. I do like the idea of like replying to like a story of someone and being
Mhm.
like, like replying in a natural way. But do you have any recommendations for business owners that struggle to kind of go like, yeah, what's that first initial conversation that I would have with someone?
I will agree that because I think there's so many of us that are hesitant to even respond to DMs as generic or as simple as they could be because in fear of what's going to come next of all the cold DMs we
Mm,
get every day. So I do think to your point, I do agree that if someone isn't going to respond to something as simple as like, "Hey, how are you?" like, "Thank you for connecting," like then they might not have responded to anything else. I typically, because in my agency, we do this for other people too. And so there's been a lot of different messages we've sent um, to people. And I think the response rate when you're just replying to a story versus like, hey, how are you? How's your week going? Thank you for connecting. I feel like the response rates are pretty much the same because also in my experiences, we can reply to stories, but a lot of times people just heart it and
mm,
don't respond back. Even if we ask a question or even if like we say something about like ourselves and trying to relate in a way. Um, and again, I think it's because of in fear of like, why are you messaging me? Um, but I think like if that happens to you, just know that that's like if you're going to be sending messages, that's not going to be 100% of the time. That's not even 50% of the time.
mm,
I when I connect like this and I'm messaging, I would say maybe it's like 10 to 20% of messages don't get responded to. Um, and I also had to get really comfortable with what my intention is. So, like, if your intention is very strong with you just want to connect and build relationships with people, like, let that be the thing. You can't control what everyone else is saying. So, I think, like, you can say a generic hi, thank you for connecting. I think asking a question is really important, regardless of how you're doing it. Um, but really just when I ask my clients or like when my clients ask me this question, I always go back to them and I just say like, what would you naturally want to say? Like, what sounds like you at the end of the day,
mm.
right? Like, you're not gonna say, "Oh, cute cat," and you don't like cats. Like you're gonna like genuinely try to find something to connect with that you genuinely connect with. So I think like yes, you can take guidance from these like ideas, but also like how would you like just like if you have a very spicy personality, like spice it up. Like what could be something
Mm.
really cool. I had someone one day ask me what my favorite food was. Like they just say, "Hey, how are you? Thank you for the follow. I want to know what your favorite food is." And I was like, "That's so cool. That's such a good idea." And I was like, I literally responded to that person. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is so cool." Because like it literally creates such a cool conversation. And it's food. We all eat food.
Yeah.
So that was a really fun conversation.
Yeah. I love that. Something just ticked over in my mind. Like when I teach content strategy, I always talk about like content buckets, like what are the two things you're known for, and then like what is something like unique about you and like something you're interested in. So for me, for
Mhm.
example, like I love to travel and I'm always somewhere random. So I could be like, where are you in the world right now? I'm living in my bus traveling to Western Australia. Like, and I
Yeah.
think that would make sense to send to someone because they'd be like, oh, because every time I say, oh my, you live in a bus, like what? You live in a bus? That's so freaking cool. And then they want to
Yeah.
see the content of me in the bus, right? So I was
Hmm.
just thinking, like, for anyone listening, anyone that's like listened to my podcast a long time and knows how I teach, that could be something that you think about. Like, okay, what is that thing that is unique about me? Like maybe I love Harry Potter. Like I'm a Harry Potter fan. Like, what house are you in? And be like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like I'm Gryffindor. And then you've got something to talk about. So I love that idea because I think it allows you to bring out your personality and showcase something that is unique about you that, yeah, like if someone loves food, like what's your favorite food? Or like I am obsessed with drinking tea. Like, do you drink tea? Please tell me you drink tea. Can we have a like and like maybe you are like a little bit because some people are really forward, even in networking events. Some people are just naturally more forward than others. So maybe they say like, I love tea. Do you want to have a Zoom call and we drink tea together? Like that could also be a good way that you know, if you are really forward, because that is probably something I would do because I am a little bit more forward.
Hmm.
But in saying that, that could freak people out. But that's also okay because I think sometimes like you're not for everyone too. Because I mean, for
Hmm.
me, my personal story around DM connection is I actually ended up living with someone that I met on Instagram through the DMs. So like, you know,
There you
like
go.
that's the ultimate level of where I'm at with like Instagram DMs. You know, obviously people have
Yeah.
been like started dating through Instagram DMs. Like I know a lot of
Hmm.
influencers, like if they don't use like Tinder or dating apps, like a lot of the times people slide into their DMs and they become partners. So like I guess it just
Hmm.
like, you know, everything can be in alignment with your personality. But I want to say that I love that idea because I think it's like, oh, what do I even say? It's like talk about something that you love. Like as you're saying,
Hmm.
let's, you know, yes, of course there are some people that are going to be on there that are from like people that potentially you would like to sell to. But at the same
Hmm.
time, you don't have to go in strong with that sales at the like you know it can you can warm up to that and I think
Hmm.
that's a really great suggestion and I love that. So of course, all right, so we've got I love these ideas because you've answered a lot of my questions are like what do we do when people first connect with us, what does that look like? We've got a few like ideas on how we can like approach people. What about
Hmm.
I'm keen to hear your take on like the DM strategy or the I mean now it's more comment because of ManyChat and people although I just got
Yeah.
an email from ManyChat to say they're like changing their structures. So I'm sure like people are gonna have to pay a gazillion more dollars or like not do what it used to do because now it's not free. What is
Mm.
your take on like the DM strategy? Like DM me the word whatever and I'll send you something. Like what are your thoughts on that? And then like I want to know your take on like automated because I've seen it go really wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I like ManyChat. I don't personally use it for my business only because I think it has a time and place. Like I have it. I have an account.
Hmm.
But I don't have enough engagement on my account for it to justify all the things that it can do. Um I I have a client who has 50,000 followers and then can get 100 comments on like a post, right? So that makes sense for her. I have it where if I find it that it works for me better if someone will reply to a keyword on like a story.
Mm.
That to me works all of the time. I close a lot of sales with my stories, and it'll be reply this word, and I'll send you the thing.
Mm.
Um, and I like that, but I think also the reason why I'm kind of like, man, like I don't love it for my business because of the relationship aspect of it. And I don't have the type of business where I sell passive or low ticket items. All of mine are, like I'll have comment the word for like an event.
Mm.
Like the dinners that I host or even the retreats. Sometimes I'll do like pop-up offers. Um, I do have a low ticket like audit that I have that I do pop-ups every once in a while. So I'll do keywords for those. But a lot of times, like my sales close because of conversations that I'm having, or like I post the link and like people go and buy from
Mm.
the sales page. Now, I think like again, it just depends on your business. I think for me, when I think about my brand itself, like me having every post be a many chat automation doesn't make sense to me. I don't also rely on like creating a lot of resources. a client or somebody that has a lot of traffic to their Instagram page or even TikTok now, a lot of times you can use depends where you live in the world, but you can use ManyChat and TikTok. Um, if you have a lot of engagement, it would make sense to do
Mm,
that. Now, how to create that automation is again, I come from a place of like, because we design the ManyChat automations for our clients as well, if they're an agency client. I am in the business of like, how do we make this sound less robot and as human as possible? So we will send video, we'll send voice messages. Obviously, we can't say like, hi, Lauren, like, thank you so much. It's just, we can say like, hi, I'm Lauren. Thank you for downloading this thing. If you have any questions, please let me know. So like we try to like imagine it as if it's a normal not a normal conversation, but just, hey, like this is a robot. I'm gonna come in here and answer your questions if you have any questions.
mm,
Um, so like I guess also too being upfront about the automation too is that's something that we've done with our clients. Because we do want it to be conversation based still and carry on the conversation afterwards. Um, but I think that, again, if you have the type of business where you're just, that works well for you and you just send a link and someone instantly buys and that's how you make your money, go for it. That
mm.
personally, I don't have that business, but I do know that it works and it's very helpful for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, that's a really good take. And because I mean, I did an episode on this a couple of weeks ago around a many chat automation that's gone wrong on like quite like a podcast that was done. It wasn't a purchase, but it was a podcast on like a topic that was quite sensitive. And
Mm.
someone like responded being triggered by the post. And then there was this many chat like, check your DMs. I was like, oh. No, it's like automation gone wrong, right? And that's how you like, I guess, lose trust pretty quickly. I've
Yes.
seen it happen many times. So I like what you're saying. Like it depends on the type of business. Like sometimes you can also like do it without many chat. Like if you don't get loads and loads of comments, you can kind of like, even if it's like 12 hours delayed, you can send it to them in their DMs.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's not like I feel like that's a better way of doing it than if you're a bit like, oh, I actually want to do it myself. Like that's okay too. Like I think online has made us think that everything needs to be automated because like we need to have freedom and da da da. But like 10 minutes on Instagram every day to like reply to things is like that's
Mhm.
okay. Like as you're saying, like especially if you're in the business of relationship building, which I definitely am as well, especially having one-on-one clients, but then also in like anything I do, like I want people, I mean, I remember someone purchased my membership and I sent them a voice note on Instagram and they're like, "Oh my God, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever done." It's like
Right.
took me two
It's
seconds.
It's really crazy how low the bar is set for that kind of thing, right?
Mm,
When I think there's a lot of businesses that talk about building relationships. But I think like back to ManyChat real quick, it's like ManyChat can work and like ManyChat has a function, it's to deliver the link automatically, but I'm thinking two steps ahead of like how do I utilize ManyChat to then continue to build that relationship, right? So like you can that's when you can still utilize it as a business and then like be in synergy with your brand too. Like so like sending follow-ups or asking questions and you can automate all of that. But then once they ask their question, like then that's you coming in
mm,
obviously and answering the question. Um but yeah, like even you mentioned like ManyChat gone wrong with a sensitive topic. I think that even when ManyChat goes wrong and it's just a mess. Like that is also like, oh, like this is a mess. Like, am I really gonna get this like resource or whatever it is? Like, is this really gonna matter? Or like, do I even want to buy from this person
mm.
if it's all kind of jumbled up?
Yeah. And like, obviously, the keyword, like depending on the context of the messages as well, where like, and I always like, I have a keyword for like my podcast. And so if someone says podcast and then that comes up, I'm like, oh, sorry, trying to be efficient with AI. Like I kind of make a joke about it because there's not much I can
Right.
do. Like that's just a keyword that, but as you're
Yeah.
saying, like if that's the first impression of the person, like that's the first interaction with you. Like it can be a little bit like, oh, this is a bit like a bit of a first impression gone wrong. And I
Hmm.
think sometimes we're so, and it's been, and I had a client say this the other day, we're so obsessed with like AI, getting AI, but like we're not making enough money. So like focus on that first and then like build those things later because I think like everything is a subscription now. And like, yes, there
Oh
was
yeah.
like the freemium sort of business model of a lot of like tech platforms, which is still quite true. But now they're running off a business model of credits. So like even if you do pay for it, if you run out of credits, they're gonna like say you've got no credits left, even though you pay for it monthly. There's no unlimited anymore. So then you go, oh my
Hmm.
God, I'm in a rush, like pay for it. And then like we're always paying for things. And then we're like, okay, well, I don't have enough money to pay myself. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, we and especially like it's just so true. Like I have a client that is a CFO for women in business particularly. And it's like that's what happens. We always pay ourselves last. So we have all these tech things where it's like to build freedom, but then we don't have the freedom because we've spent all our money on the tech. Anyway, that's a side
Yep.
tangent. But I love what you're saying around like I think and this is a really important thing, a reminder for everyone, like your business is your business. And like everyone has a different way of doing things. And you're going to be on social media where people are going to tell you what they do and you're going to think it's a great idea, but it may not work for your
Hmm.
business in particular. And I think that's important to remember. Um, so going back to kind of the DMs and how we can, because this is right, like social media, we can utilize it in so many different ways. I feel like we just utilize it in the content creation way as a business
Hmm.
owner. How does this sort of like play a role? So if we already have like, okay, I am posting stuff on social media, how does it then create this kind of synergy between building relationships and creating content? Because creating content can ultimately work as a relationship builder or trust builder at least.
Hmm.
How do we sort of pair those two where the DMs come in?
I love that you're bringing this up because I think this is the biggest problem when people are, and you probably hear this all the time with your clients of like, I'm posting all the content, but I'm not closing any sales. And you could totally close sales from just your content alone, right? Like people have done that. That happens. But the building relationship aspect of it all, like just 10x's when you start to talk to people. And that's like that's any selling whatsoever, right? And so people like actually the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, came out I think it was last week. He
Mm.
said that DMing someone actually doesn't enhance like the algorithm between you two or something, or it doesn't like it does not do anything for them to see your stuff more, which I found to be very interesting because
I would
it always seemed
feel
it
like
always
that's
seemed to me
BS.
yeah. Right. It always seemed to me that I do see people more often, the ones that I talk to all the time. But anyways, um, how I kind of frame that though is you need both together. You
Mm.
need to have the conversations and you need to have good content. And so I'm always like on the other side of things where people are also coming to me and they're saying, I am posting every day. I'm very consistent. I don't know why I'm not getting any leads. I'm not getting any sales. It's like, well, like people don't care about you. Like at the end of the day, like if you're posting just to post and you're not engaging, you're not part of the community, it's social media, you're not being social, you're not engaging with people back, like why should they care about you? They're going to care about the people that where they have a better experience. All they can experience right now is just your content that you're throwing at them on the web, and they're not even seeing every piece of content that you have. So I think that it's really important that you have to have a strategy for both, and both are equally as important. You need the consistent content, you need good content. Content's so important, but you also need to talk to people. And it could be, and then like the next question that I always get from clients is like, well, how many DMs should I send a day? Or how much should I send a week? And it's going to be anything that you can be consistent about. You can, sure, if you want to send 10 a day, by all means, you want that madhouse in your inbox, but you're going to go really fast, right? You're going to have a lot of great relationships very quickly. Or if it makes more sense where you're sending 10 a week or 5 a week just to start, like get in people's DMs and have those conversations. And again, if the conversation goes nowhere, someone else knows your name. Or it's just really good practice for you. Because
Mm.
again, release that outcome of what this conversation should turn into. And again, like it just makes sales so much easier for yourself when you start to just like build this like you build your inbox and you build these relationships and you're having these conversations. I always like equate that to a snowball effect. So like, when you build a snowball, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Imagine if you did 5 DMs a week for 4 weeks. That's 20 new people that you've met that now know your name, that now know what you do, that you've had conversations with, and your name is going to start to be mentioned in other rooms that you're not even in yet. So I think that is just invaluable as it is. But then having that content piece too, and having that good content is going to be really important. They work simultaneously. You definitely need both of them.
Mm. Yeah, oh my God, I love that. And it's funny that Adam come out and said that because I don't think that's true at all. I feel like they say that because we're going, oh my God, now I'm gonna message everybody and annoy the hell out of everyone. And then people go, I don't want to be on this stupid platform anymore because random
That's
people just
true.
message me all the time. They want people to stay on the platform as long as possible. So yeah, it's quite interesting because I had this conversation with a client and my bus had been renovated and I put on my stories, and one of my really good friends was like, I haven't seen your bus tour. And I'm like, it was on my stories. And then I was telling this to this client. She's like, yeah, but it's probably because it's your business profile and you don't message them. I messaged you, so I saw all your stories. So that's why it was funny that she said that. I'm like, yeah, well, obviously that's just how it works. But of course, like anything that we get onto of like, oh, that's how the algorithm works. They're always going to come out and say that is not how the algorithm works. And I'm like, I find that hard to believe, but that's fine.
Hmm.
But I love this, like anything tangible and manageable. And even if you go, okay, I post, I don't know, 4 times a week on social media, like across stories and like just take one out to like message, like, and replace with messaging because I find
Hmm.
we are, and now with like schedulers, right, you can have your content almost automated. So like you've got everything. If you sit down and plan it all out and put it all together, have it scheduled. That's why content strategy and systems are so important. Then you have
Hmm.
that time, while you're having a coffee in the morning to spend 5 minutes just sending some messages. And I'm saying this to myself because it's like it really is a no-brainer, honestly.
Hmm.
But it's like, okay, sitting down and actually doing it, you might need to sacrifice something out of your calendar, even if it is 5 minutes. Like if you used
Hmm.
to, do a story or go live, once a week, maybe instead of going live on Instagram, you do messages. And then once you've
Hmm.
got that habit, you can maybe fit in both. But I think it's so important because it's a social media platform. Like the whole goal is to be social, but a lot of the times we're like, oh yeah, I just need to post content. But this is the difference between content being marketing and sale and DMs being sales. Like
Yeah.
marketing's role is to bring people to your website or bring people, it's not necessarily there to close a deal. And I think that's where we think social media content alone is a sales channel and it's not. It's like a marketing channel and it's like a
Hmm.
a nurturing space. Yes, you can talk about your offers and your programs and people can go straight through your website and buy it, but also like that's where your DMs come in as that bottom of funnel sales strategy. And I
Yep.
just don't know that we're utilizing it as much as we should. Hence why you're here.
But it's so true because I think like exactly what you said. We think that our goal for social media is just to post content and that's it. And that's simply just not the case. And we have to play the game on both ends.
Mm,
And like I would even argue with people and say like if it's more important for you to post one day or to send messages, I honestly would send messages, especially if you posted the day before. Like
yeah.
if it's been like a week and a half and you haven't posted, then you need to rethink your system and your marketing plan for that. But if it comes down to like you absolutely cannot do anything this day, like I'm so tight on time, I don't have enough time, I would send your messages because if you didn't send them yesterday, you already had content go out this week. It's so important to connect, and those connections last longer than your posts on the algorithm.
Mm.
So,
Oh, yeah, great call. Love that. That's a quotable. But yeah, no, and it's so true. And I think like we just and for anyone listening, and what advice would you give? It's like, oh, where do I even begin? Like I feel like, it's one of those things like you have to do it.
Hmm.
And the more days that go by that you haven't done it, the more likely you're going to ignore it. So if we're all like, oh, haven't done this in a while, like what do you suggest and recommend? Like, is it like, making it a ritual? Is it like adding it into your calendar? Is it like having a game plan? Like, what is your advice for us that's like, we haven't done this in a while? Like, it's like going to a
Hmm.
networking event for the first time up in a while, or even after COVID, we're all like, we don't know how to talk
Yeah.
to each other. What do we do? But yeah, it can like
Yeah.
I have clients that actually like have ignored this. Like just don't do it. So how do
Hmm.
we make it a habit in our calendar? But also like if we haven't done it in a while, how do we get back on the horse?
Right. I think I think if it's easier for you, it has to be a task. Like if you have a task management, project management system, make it a task, put it on your calendar. But I think the biggest thing I would say is you have to make it intentional. So this isn't something where you pick up your phone and you're walking somewhere and you're just gonna like randomly pick 5 people to send a message to. Like worst comes to worst. That's not the worst thing that can happen. At least you're sending messages. However, there can be intention behind who you're sending messages to. So if I was starting from scratch, I actually literally just had a client call before this, and I told her, I'm like, this is literally what I told her. I said, if I was starting a new Instagram and I had, 0 followers and I posted my first piece of content and I didn't know who I needed to message, and say, for instance, I made a post and I got 10 likes. I would go through those 10 likes and I would be like, do these people look like anything that could be a potential collaboration partner, client, whatever it is? If they are another female business owner, then I would engage with them back. I would not message them and say, thank you so much for liking my post. How are you? I would absolutely not do that. I would then go to their profile and engage with them somehow. If they have a story, cool. If they followed me, awesome. I would message them if they followed me, just like thanking them for the connection and how are you? Or I would go and like and comment on a couple of their posts. That's where I would begin. And that's kind of like how you start lead generation on social media. So if you more than likely you're not starting a new Instagram and you just maybe haven't been doing this for a while. I promise you there are people in your audience right now that you probably should be connecting with that are probably lurking on your page or viewing your stories and you have not ever chatted with them at all. Like just not even like, hey, like thanks for being in my world or so great to meet you or what Harry Potter house are you in? Um, there's so much potential in the stuff that you are already doing. So, like, let's make your content actually work for you, right? Like, we can have the best content strategy, we can have the best content plan, we can write the best content, and people engage on that, regardless if you have 5 likes, regardless if you have 50 likes. Let's make those relationships really stick and
Mm.
let them feel valued and like, you mentioned something earlier that made me think of this. I forgot what you said, but it was like the experience. So like when we talk about brand and many chat and all that stuff, like it made me think of client experience as well, way before they become a client. So how do we want to be perceived as a person, not just through our content, but then also talking to people too? There's, to your point too, like there's some bigger people on Instagram that I follow that I know still, message on their DMs, and I think it's so cool. They have hundreds of thousands of followers, and they'll always say that like they're the ones that respond to their DMs, and they'll send voice notes still, right? And I think that's
Mm.
just like the coolest thing. So that goes back to like experience for sure. So like how do you want someone to experience you? How do you want someone to perceive you? And a great way to do that is like a personal touch or a voice message or just like your tone of voice, you're showing your personality, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that. It's such great advice. And one thing that made me think of this is like, yes, okay, if we think about a customer experience or a customer journey, if they watched a reel and they just liked it, what are the chances that they're going to go to your profile or even on TikTok, like to your profile, to your link in bio, to your website? like, right? Like maybe they are really interested in buying from you. They're just like, how busy do we get when we're scrolling social media? Like, oh, that looks so cool. Next. You know what I mean? So like
Hmm.
if you're, popping up in some way, like commenting on something or, sending them a message or whatever, like it's, that can be like making your content work for you long after. Quick
Yeah.
question. I mean, I imagine you work a lot more with like B2B. How
Hmm.
have you ever worked with B2C, and how would this work from like a product based where they're probably working more with like consumers and like random people? Yeah, what is it more like a comment strategy over DMs? Like what do you recommend for people that are, maybe product based or working with consumers directly?
Yeah, so I do have a lot of clients, I guess not randomly, but I get a lot of clients from the functional health space. So they are
Mm.
for sure B2C.
Okay.
And they, in my experience, get a lot of engagement and surprisingly get a lot of DMs unsolicited because people, I guess, are more willing to share their medical histories with strangers on the internet versus that. So I would like if you're, I guess if you're specific in that niche in the health and wellness industry, I would 100%, and this is what I tell them. You have a lot of people, I call them like normies. You have normies in your audience. You have normal people who have private accounts. So it's really hard to engage back with them. It's really hard to message them. It ends up in their requests. Sometimes they have blockers, things like that. But a lot of times those people actually will message you and actually want to hear from you. So if you have the potential to message them, so regardless if they have a private account or not, still do it. I mean, the response rate might be lower.
Mm.
You can't comment, you can't engage and I wouldn't go and like request all of to be their everyone's followers. I wouldn't
Yeah.
do that at all. But I think then if we're going to talk about like from a product-based standpoint, like, and I go back to my own experience. If I tag a company of a product that I bought, I think it's really cool when they message me.
Mm.
Even if I'm not following them or like my account's private, because Instagram will still alert you if something's in your like requests. Again, depending on your privacy settings and things like that, I still would encourage you to at least message them, especially if this person has been viewing all your stories, liking all your posts, is on your email list. And then two, like the other avenue of this is then I think that's why you need a very strong email strategy and email marketing. Because if you can't engage with them on socials, there has to be a way that you get into their world and they come into yours. And if we can't have an active conversation with them in the DMs, then how do we have a more personal touch? And that's really like, hey, like, let's, you have a freebie or something or coupon or something like that, like discount code, get them on your email list so then you can email them and, they're going to see it that way.
Mm. Yeah, that's really great advice. And actually it is very true with the consumers or normies as you call them. They're more like they don't have a gazillion people in their DMs like say business owners do. And they know like they don't really know the world of like sales, like, how much money do you want to make in your business? Like they're not like
Mhm.
they're not used to that. So they are probably more likely to respond. Another thing that I have a client that's B2C in the tourism space. And what I do on TikTok is I actually like comment on people's posts. So say they did like, for example, that they're near a city called Brisbane, and it'd be like top 5 food places to eat in Brisbane. And then I'll do like eye emojis or like, because they're a little bit out of the town, I'll go like, have you been here yet? So I just like comment like those things to like, and
Mhm.
I think Gen Zs, especially on TikTok, a lot of big brands hired Gen Zs to just go in and like have a comment strategy, engagement strategy.
Yeah.
And I feel like that then gave a lot of brands permission to just comment on people's stuff and not look like a weirdo. So that's
Yeah.
been fun.
Then nice. I like that. Yeah. There's, I mean, I think that there's a little bit of that too on Instagram, but yeah, TikTok's definitely a
Mm.
different animal for
Yeah,
sure.
a whole different beast. Well,
Hmm.
amazing. I mean, I could talk to you about this all day, but unfortunately we have lots of you have to wind down your day and I have to start my day. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge. How can people stalk you and DM you and ask you more questions?
You can follow me on Instagram at Lauren Najar, so just my first and last name. And my website is the same thing as well. If you want to see all of the events or get on my email list, I do have like a lead generation DM like opt-in that's free. That's on my website that would be really helpful just as a guideline for you to start your DM strategy again. But yeah, those are the two main things. And my podcast, Business Over Cocktails, there's a few short episodes where I do go over like sales and DMs and building relationships. So that subject is probably going to pop up forever. So
Yeah.
there's always going to be an episode on that.
Amazing. We'll put your free download in the show notes because I'm
Mhm.
sure we're going to be like, okay, we need to get started again. So we need all of your knowledge. Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for taking the time to share all your wisdom. I've loved learning from you, and I'm going to definitely take your advice and start doing more DMs. So I'll probably DM you today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I love talking about this stuff and you ask good questions. And I love that you are the content queen and that is the business that you run because we like need to join forces and people need to have both of us like telling them what to do. Like,
Yes,
so this was
in
really
one ear
great.
and in the other. Definitely,
Yes,
definitely.
yes.
Well, thank you so much. I've
Thank
loved it.
you.
Okay, who feels inspired and motivated to go through and start utilizing DMs on social media? Me. I actually created a task in ClickUp to do this. So I have actively been utilizing my DMs. Come over and send me a DM and let's chit chat. Let's practice our DMing together because I think it's one of those things you've got to do it consistently. Otherwise, then you feel like, oh my God, I'm in this like foreign place. It's like when you're creating content or going on Instagram stories again for the first time in ages. It's like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I feel really awkward. So let's not feel awkward anymore. Let's go forth and conquer. But thank you so much for joining us today. Be a content queen or king, and remember that developing your strategy and story develops your business. Please don't forget to share this with all your business and entrepreneurial friends. You can do this by adding it to your Insta stories and tagging me at Content Queen Mariah, or just simply tell me about it. Send it via your DMs. Send it to someone in your DMs to spark a conversation. That would be great. And if you haven't left a rating or review, that is how we get amazing people like Laura on the show. She found me through the charts. She wanted to be on the show because she saw it was a good podcast. So if you love this podcast and you want consistent content, please leave a cheeky review. And if you'd like me to get on certain guests, talk about certain topics, if there's something you're struggling with, let me know because I can find people or I can talk about it myself. And if you follow me on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, we can have a chat over there. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.